Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Taiwanese Americans for Harris-Walz virtual kickoff celebration. And now, our host for the evening, our national coacher, Chen and Miss Wenchi Yu.
Well, thank you, JC. It's hard to beat that after that energy, but welcome to the Taiwanese Americans for Harris-Walz kickoff event. I'm Wenchi Yu, tonight's co-host with Chen. We'll let Jay introduce himself. So 20 plus years ago, I moved from Taiwan to Chicago, my very first home in America for education. And I served in the Obama administration and discovered the Taiwanese American community just in the year of 2020. We started with a very, very small community 4 years ago and now have grown into something much bigger. So Jay, can you believe we have about 150 people online?
Yeah, it's been a huge growth in terms of political activism, as well as the number of Taiwanese Americans seeking elected office themselves, not just participating in these campaigns. And I'm one of those that have sought elected office. I'm Jay Chen. I'm a co-chair for Taiwanese Americans for Harris, and I'm also a community college trustee and a former candidate for Congress. And also, I was a delegate for the convention that just ended last week. And I think a lot of us are still going through withdrawal. It was such an amazing event. So if you did attend the convention or watched it, please feel free to share a word or two that would describe your experience when watching that in the chat. The one thing that I really took away from it was do something, right? That was a fantastic convention, an amazing party, but it wasn't a party without a purpose. It was a party to get us motivated, and now the hard work begins. And this is why we are all here. And I want to tell you a little bit about Taiwanese Americans for Harris. This group started in 2020 when we decided to do something about the presidential election and ensure that Taiwanese Americans would support Biden. There's kind of this impression that a lot of first generation, Taiwanese Americans leaned Republican, but we knew after experiencing that Trump term where COVID was mismanaged, where anti-Asian hate was on the rise, and where even tax policies targeted folks living in California and in New York, that we couldn't afford another Trump administration. So Taiwanese Americans for Biden was formed after we helped get him elected. We focused on the Senate races in Georgia. And this time around, we were asked to reform, and we're an official affinity group of the campaign. So we are super excited that we've restarted and that you have joined us in this kickoff. We've got a great lineup of speakers for you to motivate you, so that you know exactly what to say to that Ai or Jojo who's still on the fence, or to that MAGA Maagong. We all know that they're out there, unfortunately. So a few things that we're going to be asking you to do. Number one, please donate to the Harris campaign. Ignore what you're hearing in the news about how much they're raising. They need more. And if you're going to donate, and we hope that you donate, please do it through the link that's going to be in the chat, because when we aggregate our donations through the Taiwanese Americans for Harris group, we are amplifying our power. So it's really important that you do so through these links. And you can also volunteer. You can phone bank, you can text bank, and if you live close enough, you can canvass. And we'd also like to ask you to create a video, a short video about why you support the Harris-Walz campaign. And we're going to cut a video and put it together down the line. So instructions will be in the chat. And we'd love to have you participate in that. And then finally, please join our Slack group so that we can stay in touch. And when victory comes around after our hard work in November, we can all celebrate together. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Wenchi about some campaign slogans we might be using.
So we have a lot of tasks for you, but one fun thing we want to share to kick off today's event is you can probably all see on your Zoom link, right? Not link, the screen, there's the Taiwanese Americans for Harris-Walz. And then there's this like weird garlic thing. I think some of you may know what it is. We're going to explain it. So it is a very fun culture of election culture in Taiwan. So if you look at the mascot, right, it's actually a frozen garlic. And why? I received several inquiries already because in the local Taiwanese dialect, Hokkien, which is spoken by the majority of Taiwanese, be elected, get elected is actually pronounced as dong suan. And dong suan in Mandarin Chinese, the literate translation is frozen garlic, right? So when you go to Taiwan's campaign events, which are some of the most fun parties on earth, you'll hear the chanting of Dong Suan all the time. So every campaign event, people chant Dong Suan, Dong Suan, Dong Suan. Could be the candidate's name and then Dong Suan. So we're gonna do, at the end of today, we're gonna say Kamala Dong Suan, Kamala Dong Suan. If you're interested, there's a really neat New York Times article earlier this year about this special phenomenon. So suggest everyone take a look. You can see the link to the chat as well, in the chat as well. Now, we have a very star-studded evening. Unfortunately, Congressman Ted Lieu it has to be on the plane, so won't be able to join us. So we're gonna start with, I would call him an honorary Taiwanese American, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Congressman Raja needs no more introduction. He's one of the biggest supporters for Taiwan's security and democracy in our Congress. He's one of the only 2 congressional members my 81-year-old dad in Taiwan can recognize on TV. The other honorary member is our Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi. This is how much Raja actually means to Taiwan and Taiwanese. So let's welcome Congressman Krishnamoorthi.
Thank you so much, Wenchi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, it's wonderful to be with you. It's an honor to be with you. And as I like to say, it's an honor to be any place they can pronounce my name right. So it's great to be with my Taiwanese American friends. I want to observe those 3 rules of Zoom speaking: be short, be sweet, and be gone. And so I have 3 points that I want to make. First point is, can you give a shout out, or I guess a silent clap for Wenchi and Jay and the leadership of this group that has formed. I love their energy. I love their leadership. I love their activism. And thank you to all of you for what you've done in standing up this group so quickly. The second point I want to make is I want to say big thank you to all of you and all the dignitaries who've joined. I recognize so many of them, including my good friend Belle and Chantale and so many folks who are on this call. You are the lifeblood of basically spearheading change in this country. And the Taiwanese Americans for Harris are going to be at the forefront of making sure that we're not going back. We're not going back. We're going forward. And we're going to put our country, our families, and our communities first. And that's what Kamala Harris is going to do. Third and final point, as you know, I'm the ranking member of the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the US and the Chinese Communist Party. It's the longest title of a committee in Congress, so I feel very much at home on this committee, given the length of my own name. But in all seriousness, on Thursday of last week, I had the honor of being able to speak on the main stage at the DNC. I was one of the warm-up acts for Kamala Harris. And interestingly, the Harris campaign asked me to speak about China. And so my main point, the main thrust of my remarks was this: the Chinese Communist Party very much has a theory about the United States. It's encapsulated in a book called America Against America. And in that book, they theorize that the American people are hopelessly divided. They are divided by ethnicity, they're divided by party, they are divided by region, they cannot unite, and as a consequence, they can't compete. And so I said that they want Donald Trump across the bargaining table because they know that Donald Trump will help to pit American against American. And so we have to do the opposite of what Donald Trump would do, which is we have to come together. We have to unite, and we have to make sure that we confront our common challenges in this country, including competing with the CCP, including coming to the aid of Taiwan, including coming to the assistance of our friends, partners, and allies throughout the world. The other point I would just make is it's very clear what Donald Trump has already said about Taiwan. It's not clear that he would be there in the lurch were Taiwan to be at peril. That would not only be contrary to American law, the Taiwan Relations Act, it would be morally wrong. And so we cannot be in a situation where Donald Trump is president again, and our friends, partners, and allies cannot count on us because we are no longer a reliable, trusted partner. It would invite aggression. It would invite conflict. And God forbid, it could lead to war. And so we can't have that. And so all I can say is the stakes could not be higher. We cannot go back. We must go forward. We must elect Kamala Harris, President of the United States. And remember, when we unite as a country, we win. When we come together as one team, we win. And when we fight together, we win. So thank you so much, and God bless.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman Krishnamoorthi. I think we can't ask for a better ally than someone like you. So really appreciate it. I want to remind everybody, today we have many candidates online, and they all need our support as well. RajahForCongress.com. Please go donate to Congressman. And we would love to have his leadership continuing in our U.S. Congress to support Taiwan. Thank you so much for showing up. Well, our next speaker, is a very good friend of mine, Ambassador Chantale Wong. She's dialing in from Manila. She actually is recovering from intense travels, but she really wanted to be online with us. And she is a co-founder of the Conference on Asian Pacific American Leadership and a longtime leader and community activist. She's also the very first LGBTQ person of color to receive the rank of U.S. ambassador and is appearing here in her personal capacity. Chantale.
Thank you, Wenchi, and really amazing, Congressman Raja, because he didn't say he was on that fateful trip when Speaker Pelosi went to Taiwan. He was part of the delegation, and I met him during that trip. So good evening, fellow Taiwanese Americans, and good morning for me here in Manila. I kind of want to. I'm a wannabe Taiwanese American. I love Taiwan so much that I really want to retire there. So let me try to connect that retirement desire and why we need to support the Harris-Walz ticket in the upcoming election in only 68 days. I was doing the counting there. First, it's critically important, as the Congressman mentioned, that it's the American leadership in the international stage, and especially so here in the Asia-Pacific region where I call home. And since the Biden-Harris administration, we've done just that, reclaiming our presence in the region where American leadership was missing for decades. This is especially so in the Indo-Pacific region, where we're now having daily confrontations here in the Philippines. The Spratly Islands, all of the claiming territories. We're having tussles with them. Especially here, that this is where we're feeling it, right? I also want to really recognize the vital role that the AAPI community has really played in shaping this administration's policy. So Vice President Harris has come to the region a couple of times, and I've met her during her trip here, really recognizing her leadership in bringing American friendship and whatnot here into the region. On the ground, we're advancing U.S. interests with our friends and allies, especially with the relationship with Taiwan. And here in this region, there are only 3 countries in the Pacific Islands, and this is part of the region that we work in, where they still recognize Taiwan. And so we're here to help bolster those relationships, encouraging those relationships to continue. This actually impacts my daily work. I'm not supposed to be talking about that, but my best friend here on the board is the one that represents Taiwan, because Taiwan is actually there are very few international institutions where Taiwan is still a member. And here in this institution, Taiwan is a founding member. So it is really my job to help protect their presence here. So I mentioned Vice President's visits to countries like here in Singapore, Vietnam, and the Philippines to really strengthen those relationships with key partners. These are really to reaffirm our commitments to the region, laying the groundwork for deeper economic and security ties. So under the Biden-Harris administration, we have really made significant progress, like the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which we are actually building out to help bring in the economic vitality that this region provides. And this translates to more increased collaboration on environmental sustainability, resilience. I know Vice President Harris, when she came, she has actually emphasized the clean energy, the whole climate change that really impacts not only the Pacific Islands in a big way, but all of the countries in this region. Its climate change is real. And I know that if we get a Trump administration, this is not going to be the issue that will be resolving, right? So lastly, the administration has really strengthened security and regional stability here in the Asia-Pacific region. We really face considerable security challenges, and we are committed to an open Indo-Pacific, working with allies. As a VP, she has come to the region to enhance those deeper ties. So let me just say, as on a personal note, I want to reflect a little bit about the Kamala Harris that I know on a personal level. I have met her several times. First, came across her as a city attorney. I know David Chu, who's online as well, where my parents call home. I was so inspired. I had, I was on a GS9 salary at the time. I put out a small amount to support her for her campaign. That was 22 years ago. Right? Over the intervening years, I've had some interactions with her. One really impactful was she comes across to cross the bridge in Selma, Alabama, every year with Congressman John Lewis, where I became his personal official photographer. And I've taken a lot of really good photos of her, memorable photos. And when she became vice president, I had retired and became a photographer. I wanted to be the official photographer for the first African, first Asian, and first woman vice president of the United States. They told me, sorry, that job was taken, so I had to settle for this job. But on her trip here, I actually had photos which I laid here to give to the second gentleman, and he was. He had forgotten to give it to her the first time around, and so he was very upset, and he glared at me like I got him in trouble with his wife. So well, finally, let me just say that I want to be proud to support this ticket, and as Wenchi said, I'm the first out lesbian U.S. ambassador, and I've always said that we need not be the first. I know that this administration will be very much inclusive to bring all of us into the tent, and I know personally that would be the case. So especially to continue this relationship with Taiwan, right? And purely for my personal selfish reasons, I'm told by my friends in high places in Taiwan that I can renew my long expired Taiwan passport and get a hukou and be able to retire in Taiwan. So we really need to ensure that we have the right administration to move us forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Chantale. I can attest to her love for Taiwan. Even before she was confirmed, she was already reaching out, trying to identify people she should talk to in the Taiwanese government. So thank you again for your commitment. And before I go to the next guest, I want to just remind our guests to keep your remarks within 3 minutes if it's possible, because we have many speakers. We do want to make sure that everyone gets to share their very important insights and points. So our next speaker is Belle. For many people, she is affectionately known by her many fans in the AANHPI community as Mama Belle. I actually call her the godmother of our community. She is also the DNC AANHPI caucus chair. More importantly to the Taiwanese community, she's been a very, very important sponsor for us. And so our very existence in many ways is thanks to her. So Belle, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Wenchi, and good evening, everyone. I am so absolutely delighted to be here. First of all, congratulations on this kickoff. I am very honored that you have asked me to be part of this very important occasion. But with that, I want to kind of reminisce just a little bit, not as long as I did during the caucus, I promise. But I want to reminisce that 4 years ago, this group actually started as Taiwanese Americans for Biden. You were small, but you were very mighty, and you did such wonderful work that even after the election, what you did was you moved from being Taiwanese Americans for Biden to Taiwanese American for Progress. And now fast forward, you have now morphed that energy and that enthusiasm into, once again, Taiwanese American for Harris. So congratulations for this wonderful work. You have been very strategic in your involvement, and we expect you to continue that very enthusiastically going into the future. I also want to reflect on the increased number of prominent elected and appointed Taiwanese Americans. I think that, Jay, we were all rooting for you when you were running, and there were a lot of other Taiwanese Americans that were running, and we were there, rooting for you and wanted to make sure that we get an even chance. So today's lineup is a prime example of this reflection that you have not only increased in number, but in power. And for that, I commend you and congratulate you for all your work. And even though I have only been to Taiwan once in my life, I have very special place in my heart for Taiwan. And let me just tell you why. When I was a baby, my mother smuggled me out of communist China, and but for karma or for whatever, my trajectory took me to Cuba instead of Taiwan. I could have easily have been one of yours, amongst you. What I feel is that we have very much in common is this passion for freedom and democracy. And this is what this is all about. So for that, I thank you all because the very existence of Taiwan is representative in my mind and in the mind of a lot of other people of that symbol of democracy and symbol of freedom. And so, so even though I'm not Taiwanese, I feel like we're kindred spirits. So now that we just came back from this very, very exciting and amazing and energizing, and I can't find enough words to describe this last convention, I have, I think you all share with me that the excitement is very real. The enthusiasm is very real. The euphoria is very real. So what we need to do is we need to see if we can bottle all of that enthusiasm, euphoria, and excitement into something that we can continue to drink from so that we can go to victory in November. So now that we have been home for almost a week, some of us recuperating, from various things, exhaustion being probably the prime thing. We can reflect a little bit and we can remember those things that stuck out, you know, really vividly in our minds. And of course, there's that amazing speech from Michelle Obama and her charge to do something. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing something. This is what this getting this group started is all about. It is getting everybody together to do something. So we heard many other memorable speeches, and I will also remember that the Joe Biden speech is being one of the very, very special one, in that he reminded us about what he and Vice President Harris were able to accomplish in 3.5 short years. Things that other administrations have not been able to accomplish, whether Republican or Democratic. And so with that, we owe Joe Biden a huge vote of thanks. I will especially remember our nominee's speech. Vice President Kamala Harris, I will remember her battle cry of "when we fight, we win." And this is meaningful for all of us for a number of reasons. It is a call for unity. It is a call for fighting for what we believe in. It is a call to arms, to link hands and fight to win. In her speech, we met the Asian American woman raised in a household with Asian American values by a hardworking mom, and working hard to achieve success. And many of us saw ourselves in her, in that speech. So that brings me to why I support the Harris-Walz campaign ticket. For the first time in my lifetime, we have an Asian American and Black woman candidate from a nominee from a major party. Very importantly, she is one of us. She understands us, she knows our issues, she sees us, and she knows what to do to help our community, because that's her community as well. There are several members that folks that are going to be speaking a little bit later that have actually worked with her, and they will probably talk a lot more eloquently about that connectivity and that relationship and that understanding. But for now, I just want to tell you that I am just so very excited that we have somebody that actually sees us, that knows who we are, and will fight for us, for all of us. I am so excited to be part of this journey with all of you to help elect the first Asian American and Black American woman to be the next president of the United States. I thank you for the opportunity for giving me to chat with you and to help celebrate this launching.
Thank you so much, Mama Bell. And thank you for ensuring that our voices are heard at the Democratic National Committee and for uplifting candidates like myself and so many others as we seek to represent our communities. And now I would like to introduce Nadia Belkin. We're really excited to have her here. She's the National AANHPI Engagement Director for the Harris for President campaign, and also the founding executive director of the Asian American Power Network. And I just want to point out, she is such a hard worker. She seems to be on every single signal thread. She's on top of everything involving the AANHPI community, involving communications. And we know that this is a campaign that values our voices, and they've made early investments, and that's something that I hope Nadia will be able to talk a little bit about. So Nadia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jay. That was such a warm welcome. It is so wonderful to be in community with you all. And I will just say, I am part of a bigger puzzle. I mean, the organizing capacity and ecosystem and infrastructure is playing itself out on this call. And what we saw at convention, we are all working towards a common goal, not only to elect Vice President Kamala Harris as the first female president of the United States, but also, Jay, as you said so well, to make sure that the AANHPI voice is heard. So anything I can do to support that work, sign me up. As Jay mentioned, I am working on the Harris for President campaign. I hold the honor of being the National AANHPI Engagement Director. So I see you, I want to work with you, and we're here to do this work alongside of you. I don't know if you all have looked at the calendar, but it's a little crazy that just over a month ago, Vice President Harris became the top of the ticket. A week after that, we had Governor Walz join as the vice president pick. And then a week and a half after that, we were at convention. So time is really flying, and we only have 68 days left on the clock. Now, I say that because that should really inspire you. And I know that's why you're on this call today, working with Taiwanese Americans for Harris. You have great leadership here, and it is truly an honor to partner with them to get the job done on November 5th. This moment is really an organizer's dream. We're seeing high levels of engagement, calls to action, a lot of organic organizing happening. And really that is radiating through your screens and even in our campaign offices. We know that we're running on a record of success. You have seen what the Biden-Harris administration has done for our community over the past 3.5 years. And at convention last week, we saw what President Harris and Vice President Walz will do for us as well. So we know that this is a winning ticket that is good on the issues that we know matter to us and have paved the way for policy successes at the highest levels. We know Vice President Harris has a vision for this country that is uplifting, empowering, and inclusive. So I want to take a moment to just show you some of the paid media ads that we have that are really encapsulating this message. And one fact that I want you to take back to your friends and family is if you rewind the clock all the way to the fall of 2023, this campaign actually started communicating with voters. The investments that were made in the fall were actually the earliest ever that a Democratic presidential campaign has ever started to engage with us. We have already been on airwaves, we have been on the radio, and we have been on paid media, which means we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, we are on any place that you consume news and media because we want to reach you where you are. Why is that important? It's because we're doing this work in language on the platforms where you where you receive that information, and we're being consistent about it. Look at us, we're not trying to talk to you in November. We started our conversation last year. So I want to wrap all of that up, and I want you to look at your screens. We have released 2 new ads this month alone, which is part of a $90 million buy. When you come back from it, I want to just see if you're also tracking the 3 things that really stand out to us. The 2 ads, by the way, are called Reduce, focusing on the Affordable Care Act, and The Seal. Both are contrast messages around Mr. Orange, is how I will call him.
The Affordable Care Act has helped us more than anyone else, but Donald Trump wants to rip it all away.
Trump scares me. He wants to terminate health care protections for people in our community.
Trump is bad for our health.
Kung flu, China plague, or the China virus.
When Trump called COVID the Kung flu, he unleashed a wave of hate against our community. I was scared. People didn't feel safe.
The former president incites hate. We are working to combat hate. Someone who promotes xenophobia should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States of America.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Thank you so much for showing those. I think it really gives you a sense of this is a campaign and this is a candidate that really sees us and understands us. So the 3 things that I hope you saw in this is 1, we're connecting the policy to the people. We know that there are issues that really matter to our community, and we want to be in conversation with you about what we're seeing, how we want to fix it, and how we know that that impacts you. The second thing is we know we're a community that is the target of mis and disinformation. In these ads, we are showing you that this is actually what the Harris-Walz administration is going to focus on and how the Biden-Harris administration has seen you up to this point. And the last thing, which I know we are all searching for in ads, is looking for faces that are similar to ours. We are being really intentional about how we want to communicate with our community about the issues that matter. So I know we're tight on time, but I feel like it's really important to focus on the big theme that you heard during convention. Do something. So if you're looking to figure out what to do, the campaign and Taiwanese Americans for Harris is the right place to come. We are hosting a series of activities that help mobilize our community to let them know about the issues and help them figure out how to vote on November 5th. We're doing this through different tactics: phone banking, text banking, canvassing, hosting rallies, hosting watch parties. All of this is hopefully something that stands out to you as a way that you want to contribute. We're also providing toolkits, fact sheets, talking points, because we know that you want to be able to be in conversation with your friends and family. Pop into that WhatsApp group and actually share what is happening in this community and how Harris-Walz can be the best ticket and best option for us. So I will be sure to drop into the chat for you a few things. One, our volunteer link. And number two, we have standing phone banks that are running every single week for you to dial in and start talking to your friends and family. The biggest ask here is we're 68 days out. We're asking for you to join in, to participate, and to get involved. You all are actually the best messengers to your community to talk about what's at stake, how this administration will support and see us, and really to help us cultivate a better tomorrow. So I am definitely wanting to be in partnership with you all. And thank you, Taiwanese Americans for Harris. I know that your work that you have done and will do with us will help us really move the needle as we head towards November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And now I would like to introduce Sarah Lin. She is Taiwanese American, and she is the National AANHPI Engagement Director for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, also known as the DCCC. She's also a national board member of the Taiwanese American Citizens League. And she's the one who's going to make sure that when Vice President Harris wins, she's going to have a Congress that can work with her as well. So please take it away, Sarah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jay, and so good to be here with all of you on the call. Thank you to Taiwanese Americans for Harris-Walz for having me. As Jay said, my name is Sarah. I'm leading our national AANHPI engagement portfolio at the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and our mission at the DCCC is very simple. It is to take back the House this November, which also means, as Jay said, delivering a House majority to a President, Kamala Harris, and a Vice President, Tim Walz, so that they can deliver for the American people and for communities like ours all across the country. Here at the DTRIP, we know that AANHPI voters and Taiwanese American voters in particular are absolutely critical to our mission of taking back the House. And so that is why the DCCC this cycle has made its earliest and largest coordinated investment in reaching voters of color. It is a historic investment that has included research investments, so that we can do AANHPI specific polling and focus groups across our targeted races on the AANHPI House battlefield. It's included a first of its kind media consumption study focusing on voters of color on the House battlefield. We've done paid media by AANHPI owned and led firms so that we can produce multilingual, culturally specific digital, print, radio, TV ads, and mailers that engage AANHPI voters across the country, in addition to investing in and hiring AANHPI district directors in targeted congressional districts all across the country. And so happy to share more about that historic 8-figure investment across the country in our Power the People program, which is what our national engagement program is titled this cycle. I know we're short on time, so before I close, I just want to specifically highlight a couple of key races and Asian candidates who are a part of the DTRIP's competitive Red to Blue program this cycle. And I see that there are some links in the chat as well that speak to the amazing races that we are proud to support. We have, in terms of Asian Red to Blue candidates, we have Dr. Mi Shah, an emergency physician and state rep running in Arizona 1. We have Linan Bakam, a veteran public servant and the son of Thai Dam refugees from Laos, running in Iowa 3. And then in particular, I want to highlight our Asian candidates in Orange County, California, whose races I've had the pleasure of partnering with Taiwanese Americans for Harris and for Progress on in California. So in California 45, we have Derek Tran running for Congress against Republican incumbent Michelle Steele. We know how important it is to flip this seat from red to blue so that Derek can deliver for all of the communities in CA 45, particularly Taiwanese Americans there. This is a district where the AAPI voting age population is at 38.4%. And it is so important for us to deliver AANHPI representation for this district. In CA 47, we also have Dave Min, who is running in an open seat that was held by Katie Porter. He is running against Republican Scott Baugh. And it's so important for us to come and rally behind Dave in this district in Orange County. And was so grateful for me to have been on the ground just a couple weeks back with members of TAFP in Irvine, also in Westminster, in CA 45, leading our AAPI Day of Action with over 20 AAPI groups coming together to support our Asian candidates who are going to help us take back the House. And so finally, I'll just say, as a proud Taiwanese American myself, I have the shirt on here. So grateful to be in this room with all of you. Grateful for your energy, for your support in helping to elect President Kamala Harris and Vice President Tim Walz, and supporting our amazing Asian candidates and candidates all across the House battlefield, so that we can deliver a House majority to our president on day one. So thank you all so much, and please feel free to DM me if you'd like to get involved and plug into the work that we'll be doing on the ground, on the phones, on the doors, from now all the way until November 5th. Thank you all so much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I also wanted to emphasize a couple of the candidates that Taiwanese Americans for Harris/Progress that we're supporting, and we have events for them coming up. If you're going to be in New York on September 4th, we have an event for Dave Min. We're going to put the information in the chat. And then on September 20th, we have an event for Derek Tran. And then in Orange County on September 22nd, we'll be canvassing for Dave Min. In October 13th, we plan a canvass for Derek Tran as well. So please get involved. We need to make sure that President Harris has a Congress that will work with her and not obstruct her. And now we're going to jump a little bit ahead to Jeff Yang. So Jeff Yang is a proud Taiwanese American. He's an author, a newspaper columnist, and a community activist. I consider him to be the definitive historian of modern Asian American pop culture. He's kind of like our era's Corky Lee, but in print. And at one point, Jeff got tired of just documenting pop culture and decided to make his own contribution as well, which is why he's now more famous for being the dad of Hudson Yang from Fresh Off the Boat. So let's give it up for Jeff Yang.
Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you for all of you guys for coming together on this incredible call. I am still riding a high from having been in Chicago for the DNC and seeing so many of you and realizing now how many of you are my brothers and sisters who are Taiwanese American. This is an incredible group, and it's an incredible group that's going to drive us to victory, not just at the top of the ticket, but all the way down. It's so exciting, especially to see so many of our state and local representatives here, because again, that's where democracy works. That is where we're going to actually build our victory. As Jay said, Jay, my old friend, and somebody who I long to see back out there on the hustings himself one of these days soon. I am a writer, somebody who's documented a lot of the changes that have occurred over the last 3 decades, and so many of them have occurred in just the past few years. You mentioned in that book there, yeah, Rise. You mentioned Hudson, just 2014 when Fresh Off the Boat came out. He was sort of my tribute to the media gods to try to correct some of the ways in which we've been underrepresented or misrepresented over so many years. And now he's a 6'3", almost 21-year-old guy, rising junior at Harvard University. And he was briefly on this call, but had to actually jump, unfortunately, when he saw that we were running way behind because he has to make it to a medical appointment. But together, we have one thing in common, really, with this campaign, and that is this: we cannot wait to vote for an Asian American for president. It is not something I ever imagined that would happen in my lifetime. It is something that Hudson, who'll be voting for the first time for president, cannot believe that he has the opportunity to do, that his first vote for a president will be for an Asian American in Kamala Harris. And frankly, that means that we are all in. All in. both he and I, and so many other people in Hollywood, in the influencer community. We're rallying, we're connecting, we're kind of trying to build those networks on the fly because we don't have that many days left. One of the things that we are doing is putting together campaigns that are a little bit, out of the ordinary. Some of you guys may know that I do a podcast with Phil Yu, Angry Asian Man, the podcast called They Call Us Bruce. And what we are going to be doing, actually, and this is the first time that is being seen on screen, as it were, is we are doing I guess t-shirts are the theme of this call so far, a limited edition of one of his classic Stay Angry shirts, which we call the Joyful Warrior edition of the Stay Angry shirt. This shirt is going to be available, and all proceeds are going to go through Asian Americans for Democracy to, again, elect Harris-Walz, as well as local candidates and people up and down the ticket in swing states across America. We are hoping that we can get as many people as possible to just unite and just wear this as a sign of both our joy and our defiance. And yeah, we are super excited about where we're going. This is the moment that we all belong to, and this is the moment where we especially should be stepping in the spotlight. Thank you guys so much for just gathering together and giving us this opportunity to see each other, because we deserve to be seen.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, and congratulations on Hassan. I can't believe he's already 6'3". But we wanted to introduce the next speaker, Eric Zhang. I call Eric one of the most influential AANHPI leaders in Nevada, which is a very important battleground states for us. For the last few years, Eric and his team have engaged tens of thousands of voters, resulting in a surge in voter registration, first-time voter and youth voter turnout, and overall AANHPI voter turnout. Eric got his start in 2012 as an intern for the Taiwanese American Citizens League. So tell us how it's going in Nevada, Eric.
All right, thank you so much, Wenchi. Yeah, my name is Eric. I am an organizer here in Nevada. At my day job, I run a civic engagement program, but we also have political PACs. So today, I am here in my personal capacity as a Taiwanese American, and also we host, in my community side, I get to host Taiwanese American events for Mid-Autumn Festival is coming up. Great way to do voter registration and GOTV, but it's also, we do voter education, voter engagement, and voter turnout. And because I grew up in Taiwan, I went through high school and college in Taiwan, so I actually get to approve and help copy edit the official Chinese translations for the ballot for Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is. We're trying to put it on the official ballot itself instead of just a sample ballot, but our Republican governor doesn't see the need, so veto the bill. So we will come back and more. But now as community organizer, we're trying our best to make sure our community, our fast growing community here in this battleground state, are able to learn this, how to vote in a nonpartisan way in Mandarin Chinese. But today I'm also here as a former political intern that got my start in the last 12 years, working in policy and organizing in political campaigns. But I also want to talk about why I'm here and want to talk about why I support Harris-Walz ticket, because the contrasting vision and values as a Taiwanese American cannot be more stark. On one side, I think if we were at we watched a DNC speech, one thing that really came with me is when Congresswoman when AOC said that Trump will sell us out for even $1 if that means he can make himself and his friends rich. That's for us. Trump is ready to sell Taiwan out anytime. We have seen today, even in today, Wall Street Journal, conservatives are asking, can Taiwan rely on US if Trump gets elected? We also know his vice president nominee for JD Vance. We've seen how far he comes. We've seen that he will do anything, he will say anything to gain a little bit more power for himself. These are the people, as Taiwanese American, and with whatever is happening geopolitically, it is a very nerve-wracking for to leave the world's destiny into people without principle, to these folks that have a track record of wreckage, of all the broken promises and betrayals. So for us, on the other hand, I know that we already heard from ambassadors, we heard from administration officials, we heard from our elected leaders, but I think another thing about the Biden-Harris administration, and now with Vice President Harris on the top of the ticket, sometimes we need to talk about Governor Walz a little bit more, because this man gets it. Governor Walz, for most recent example, during his time as governor of Minnesota, he actually increased Minnesota and Taiwan's trade. During the Trump trade war, when Minnesotan farmers were not able to sell their soybeans to China, he's able to negotiate personally to get those deals to Taiwan. And he is someone that, in congressional record, he said that he's visited Taiwan. He was there for a short mission trip. He understands it. We know his understanding of the unique human rights situation that's happening. He knows what our value is for democracy, for freedom, for human rights. That's something he cares about. So as someone that cares about this, that for someone that my entire family still lives in Taiwan, as someone that cares the same amount of political work in Taiwan, but as a US citizen, I'm here and do my part to elect leaders that are aligned in the value and care about our community. And lastly, I think it's very beautiful that we get to say Kamala has a beautiful Chinese name, He Jin-li, and in Hokkien, in Taiwanese, is Ho Kim-lei, Ho Kim-lei Dong Suan, and then Ju Diong, that's Governor Hua Zi. So He Jin-li and Hua Zi, that's the two Chinese names that we have, and we are translating it to let our communities know. And that way we are able to do things with cultural sensitivity. We get to tell them about Dong Suan. We get to tell them about the frozen garlic. And that's something we do want to share, that elections should be joyful. And I don't know if folks have seen, they have the large rally. We want to bring the same amount of energy, enthusiasm, and joy to our Taiwanese American community. So very excited about this. I'll put the traditional Chinese version into the chat. And also, if you want to see DNC coverage, the Taiwanese public television news has amazing DNC coverage in Hokkien, in Taiwanese. So that's how I was able to learn about the platforms and their names in Taiwanese. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity. And if anyone ever wants to be in Vegas between the next 68 days, hit me up. Happy to connect you to the community effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric, fellow political internship alumni. And now I would like to introduce Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang is a Taiwanese American, and he's the founder and co-chair of the Forward Party. And he was actually a very successful candidate, of course, for president in 2020. Andrew's a kind of person who doesn't shy away from telling hard truths or presenting bold ideas. And we were just ecstatic that he is in Kamala Harris's corner. He is an independent endorsement you would actually want. No brainworms, no severed whale carcasses or severed heads or bear, bodies. He is an independent endorsement we want. So please take it away, Andrew.
Hey, Jay, what a fun, kind introduction. Hey, everyone. It's great to be with you all. How many people are going back to Taiwan to visit their folks this December? Me. And I certainly hope that Kamala Harris is the president at that point, because I think she'd be much, much better for the country. Certainly, I don't think Donald Trump is who anyone should be wishing back upon the world. It's a very, very high variance election, and excited to be with you all to support Kamala and Tim Walz in this campaign. I don't know Tim at all, but I've spent a fair amount of time with Kamala, and I think she would genuinely do everything in her power to help middle-class Americans live better lives and keep our institutions intact and strong and whole. And I think that Trump will do whatever Trump thinks is in Trump's interest, and that's not what the country needs. It's not what the world needs. I was thinking of things I could say that would tie this into being Taiwanese American. All I can say is I love just about every Taiwanese American I know. You're all awesome, super warm, positive, people that want the best for other people. And I think that's why we should be supporting Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in a nutshell. So grateful to be here with you all. I know many of you in person. Those of you I don't know, hopefully I will see you soon. And I loved what the speaker said about Derek Tran and Dave Min and the other candidates in California and around the country. A lot of them are great public servants, folks like Jay who stepped up to do what's right for the country. And if we can get some of them into Congress in November as well, that would be awesome. It's great to be here with you all. See you in Taiwan in December.
Well, thank you, Andrew. We're midway through. What a fantastic lineup. And we just wanted to check in with you on a few things. Jay, you want to remind people about donations? And
yes, please do donate. We have a QR code up there, and we have links that were put in the chat. It is really, really important that we provide that financial support for the campaign as well. Don't believe the polls. We knew the polls were wrong in 2016. Just because it looks like things are going well, things can always turn, and the only poll that matters is in November. So just remember how we all felt in 2016 when we thought we had it and we didn't. So please dig deep, give until it hurts, and then give a little bit more. And also remember to sign up on our volunteer list, try to help out some of our DCCC Red to Blue candidates, and also help out with our phone banking and our text banking efforts. There are a myriad of ways for everybody to get involved. And of course, please remember to make that supporter video when you get off of this call. Yeah, that's what I got. Wenchi?
Yeah, other than serious business, we do want to ask you, what song would you like to sing at karaoke with Harris and Walz? Don't say it's Freedom. Of course, Freedom is the given song, but if you can type in your song recommendations in the chat, that would be wonderful. In the meantime, we're going to introduce the next speaker, who is the New York State Senator Wenchi Yu. Wen is a state senator from Brooklyn. She was born in Taiwan, and she's the very first Asian American woman to be elected to the state Senate in New York. I had the honor of meeting her at the Aspire's DNC event last week. So Wen, welcome onto the stage.
Well, thank you, Wenchi, and evening, everybody. Hello to my fellow Taiwanese American and supporters of Taiwanese American and the community. I truly appreciate this organizing this meeting and also gear up to win this election all together. Appreciate the introduction. Yes, I actually born and raised in Taiwan, came here age 27 to pursue my master's degree, and then then start all the way down. How I get volunteer, how I see as being an immigrant. There's a lot of neglect. There's a lot of opportunity. We need to speak up for ourselves. So that's how I start to engage, volunteer, knock doors, do a lot of community organizing work, and that started from 2022. I had the opportunity to run for my own office and become the first Asian woman got elected in the state Senate. That's 246 years late. So I'm happy to be the first one. I will make sure I'm not the only one and the last one. So I truly encourage all of you, stay involved, stay engaged, run for office if you can, please. And I was very happy to see Wenchi last week at the DNC event, and many political leaders, and I cast my delegate vote to formally nominate Harris and Walz on the ticket. It's truly my honor to throw my full support to elect our Vice President Kamala Harris to become the president, the first woman president, and the first person of Asian descent to be in the Oval Office. Because the ticket, we can talk about all the international issues that at the end, when you are running for a campaign, when you need to really talking to the voters, when you need to persuade them to cast a vote, how we want to go. We need to show them the true democratic value, which is our family value, our safe street, our strong public schools, and brighter future for our next generation. And everyone's welcome in this country. This is how the Democrat, we're going to carry each other's up. And I want to make sure everybody understand one thing, not just winning, electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We need to win Democrat all the way down from the ballot. I myself have a very contestant battleground. I have a battleground district in my district as well. And we all, as a collective voice, we need to make sure we support each other and make sure we can win this November all together and all the way down from the ballot to support our Democrats. And it's a simple. Just need your time, need your energy. You need to knock the door. You need to volunteer for the phone bank. And if you can, please donate. Election to elect someone else is just that's a must to do. So be engaged, be involved, and volunteer. And if you can do this, I know we can win this all together because we are doing this. Do something. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We are also doing something for Ewen. We're doing a number of canvassing for Ewen. So I think the next one is September 15th at 3 p.m. We're going to share more information about this. And I believe in your sign-up sheet, you will see some of the activities as well. So thank you, Ewen, for representing us at the grassroots level. Talking about lifting people up, Stephanie Chang is a Michigan state senator, the first Asian American woman to serve in the Michigan legislature, and also the first woman to give birth while serving as a Michigan state senator. I have to say I'm a huge fan of Stephanie because I follow her on social media, and her posting always makes me feel so proud of her leadership because she's always about lifting others up, helping her peers, helping newcomers, helping her colleagues and constituents. So Stephanie, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be with all of you. What an incredible turnout and what an incredible group of people that are here today. I'm a proud daughter of Taiwanese American immigrants. And I'm also the proud mom of 2 Black and Asian daughters. So this election of Kamala Harris is very meaningful to all of us, but certainly to me, I'm just really excited about our next president of the United States, being someone that my daughters will be able to look to and hopefully see themselves represented by in many more ways than one. So it's truly an exciting time. It's an exciting moment. And I am actually just fresh off of another event for Harris-Walz. We actually just kicked off our Asian American women and Black women coming together for Kamala Harris. We're going to be doing a series of events here in Michigan. 2 really powerful groups of people who have a vested interest in our candidate, and groups that don't necessarily always work together. So we're excited about the prospect of coming together. I saw someone put a question in the Q&A around, reaching out and collaborating and working cross communities. And that's something I've been doing pretty much my whole career. Has been a lot of coalition building, a lot of bringing folks together around challenging issues. And that's actually, I think, a lot of the reason why I'm so excited about Kamala Harris running to be our next president. For obviously all of the reasons in terms of representation, but also just for the incredible work that she's done. She has had just a really strong track record working on issues and putting her values out there in a way that is really, really admirable. And I, started paying more and more attention to her career when she joined the U.S. Senate, and watching her fight for immigrants, fight for dreamers, stand up against police brutality, And then, of course, working on all the other issues when it comes to economic opportunity and housing and environmental justice. I mean, her track record just goes back so far into her days as a district attorney, and will continue going. And I'm excited about many of the things that she has put out there as her policy platforms. And I know that I'm sure there's going to be much more to come. And Michigan is obviously a really key state for this race. And I'm going to be doing everything that I can to ensure that we win in Michigan. And I am feeling really optimistic. You know, on the ground here in Michigan, we are seeing people engaged. You know, we had at the rally a couple days after, actually no, the day after she announced Tim Walz as her running mate. I mean, we had 15,000 people there at this airport hangar where we have like all these people that just like overflowed out. It was a hot day, but it was a good day and it was an incredible day. And I just think that the energy is really, really building. But 10 weeks is a short amount of time. It's also a long amount of time. So we've got to, you know, keep that momentum going for every single one of these weeks going forward to make sure that we are talking to voters. I think that in Michigan, we know very well that we cannot take anything for granted. You know, Michigan, unfortunately, went for Trump in 2016. And so we have a lot of work to do to make sure that folks who maybe didn't turn out that year do turn out this year, and that every single young voter who is newly registered or, you know, hadn't turned out in previous years is really engaged in this process. And so there's a lot of work to do, but I'm super excited, feeling the momentum, but also know that we cannot take anything for granted. So proud to be Taiwanese American, proud to be among this incredible group. And I know other speakers have also mentioned the importance of voting up and down the ticket, but absolutely would agree with that. In Michigan, I'm so excited that we finally have a Democratic trifecta. I've served 8 years in the minority. It is so much better to be in the majority, and I'm really looking forward to us keeping that for 2 more years so that we can keep the progress going on everything from economic opportunity to housing, to reproductive freedom and gun violence, and so much more. So thank you, everyone. Let's just keep up the energy all the way through November 5th.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. We know how hard you've been working in the battleground with our very capable and popular governor as well. You know, when she said being a woman from Michigan is a badge of honor at the DNC, I was literally cheering up. So thank you for your leadership. So of course, when we talk about women leadership, women's health and reproductive health is a key issue for this year. And of course, you know, this is not just about women's issues. We know that a lot of, you know, advocates for women's bodies and freedom of choice is also vital to our basically having the right, defending our right. Our next speaker is a public health doctor, Clarence Lam. He's also a state senator from Maryland. A funny joke, but not really a joke. He's raised in a very good Asian family because he and his 2 brothers, 3 kids, 3 sons, are all doctors. What a stereotype. But Clarence, let's welcome him onto the stage and share with us what he's working on these days.
All right. Well, thank you, Wenchi, and thank you to all the organizers, Jay, Clifton, JC, others who were able to help bring us all together this evening for us to be able to share our thoughts and also to be able to work towards a really, you know, important campaign that's coming up. And I just got back from the DNC like so many others. I want to bring that energy back to you. It was just a phenomenal kaleidoscope of diversity to be able to be with so many others from around the country who share our values and understand why it's so important to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president. And it's an important reminder of how valuable our voting bloc is as the largest and fastest growing voting bloc across the country. our votes really can make an impact. And that's why it's so important for us to be able to not only donate, but also reach back out into our networks and make sure that we encourage others that we know to go out and vote as well. I'm honored to be here as a proud Taiwanese American. My mother was from Taiwan. I had the opportunity to visit Taiwan just a few years before the pandemic last, and it was an important reminder of what makes Taiwan so special and so important. And it's really the people there that value democracy, that value relationships, that value how important having allies in a really difficult region are. And particularly these days, it's an underlying reminder that with so much turmoil in the Asia-Pacific region, it's important to be able to have those really important relationships. And President Biden certainly understood that when it came to Taiwan, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will as well. And you contrast that with the other side, where we saw over 8 years, the Trump administration tore up friendships, stepped over norms, and even exchanged letters and gifts with brutal dictators. It was really remarkable when you look at the contrast. There is no contest here why we need Kamala Harris in the White House. I'm also a physician, as Wenchi mentioned. All three of us and my 2 younger brothers are. Asian parents' dream here. But also recognize how important Kamala Harris is to carrying on some really important healthcare reforms that have been started under the Biden administration. And we know that this White House has worked towards improving public health, striving towards greater health equity, and even built upon the work that President Obama did in passing the Affordable Care Act. We saw the prior administration under Trump, which sided with insurance companies and big pharma, peddling unproven drugs for COVID, recommending that people drink bleach, and really trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act even 10 years after it had originally been passed. Under President Biden, we were able to cap the cost of prescription drugs like insulin at no more than $35 a month. And now for the very first time, Medicare will have the opportunity to be able to negotiate drug prices with Big Pharma to be able to bring those costs down for people. And let me just close on this. As an Asian American, as a physician, as the only Asian American physician in the Maryland State Senate, it was a really challenging time to work at the intersection of those areas during the pandemic. And we saw that what came out of the prior administration was a lot of discrimination and hate. As you saw in the video that Sarah introduced earlier, the remarks and comments that the prior president had provided throughout his term really helped fuel the rise and tide of Asian American discrimination and hate. And it was under the Biden administration that passed landmark anti-Asian hate legislation as a result of everything that stemmed from the pandemic. And we know that Kamala Harris, as our first Asian American president, will be there to protect and uplift our AAPI and our Taiwanese American community. And that's why we need to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president. So just wanted to thank our organizers again. We only have, I believe, 68 days until Election Day. So we have to make sure that we continue to do something and make sure that you donate. There's a link that's been provided in the chat. Knock on doors, make phone calls, reach out to folks in your network, because we have a lot of work to do. And I know that if we all put our hands together, we can go win this on November 5th. Thank you so much, and we'll keep working hard.
Thank you so much, Clarence, for those words. And now I would like to introduce State Representative Cristina Parajon. She is Taiwanese American, and she became the youngest female New Mexico legislator in history when she was appointed in 2023 at the age of 27. She may be the youngest Taiwanese American elected to holding a state position in the entire country, and we expect greater things from her down the line. And I enjoyed meeting her at the Democratic National Convention. So please welcome Cristina Parajon.
Thank you so much, Jay, and 大家好. My name is Cristina Xiangyin Parajon, and I'm proud to be Taiwanese, Latina, and American. I'm the youngest woman, as Jay said, in the New Mexico State Legislature, and I'm also the first Taiwanese American elected in my state, and I'm also running for re-election in House District 25. And I'm just so humbled to be speaking here with all of you today, and just so proud to be here with such incredible Taiwanese leaders that that I have admired for so long. My ama and my akong, they immigrated to this country from Taiwan on the special visas in the 60s. And because my mom and dad had to work, my ama and akong often were helping to raise myself and my brothers. So I was raised on nurofan, you know, songyobing, ayu jelly, lots of other Taiwanese foods. And I really grew up with the idea that family comes first. And the sacrifices that my ama and my akong made so that my mom, my ai, myself, my didis, we could all have a better life. Being Taiwanese in America for my mom, who is Taiwanese American, often felt like being invisible and unrepresented, which made her raise me with the opposite conviction. And I grew up believing that I could be anything that I wanted to be. And sure, my stereotypical Asian mom, doctor mom, by anything she meant be a doctor, like Dr. Lam. But I didn't want to treat people one at a time. I wanted to address the whole system that we lived in. And thanks, Dr. Lam, you can clearly do both. But as Kamala says, really to take into account the context in which we exist. My Taiwanese and Latino roots ground me. They inspire me to work for what's best, for what we can be for our families and for our communities. Kamala is from an immigrant family too. She understands the immigrant story. She understands our communities. And as a young millennial legislator, I am inspired by Kamala. The Harris-Walz ticket is about making decisions between families and their doctors without government involvement. It's about building the middle class, paid family medical leave, which we've tried to pass here in New Mexico so that we can take care of our families. It's about reforming the immigration system and being able to take care of our elders with Medicaid. These are all Taiwanese values. And I am super ready to help make sure that we ensure that our amas and our akongs, our ais, our agus, tias and tios, that they'll get out and vote, and importantly, raise money. When I was little, my mom told me that when she went to elementary school in her majority white neighborhood growing up, that kids would throw rocks at her. And I know that she hoped that I would never, ever experience anything like that. But the day before Trump won in 2016, there was a Trump caravan that cruised through my college. And I was walking on the sidewalk with a friend and speaking in Spanish. And that caravan threw trash at us and told us to go back across the border where we belonged. Well, me and my mom would like to tell those people that this is exactly where we belong. And when I have kids, I will tell them that they belong too. Whoever holds the highest office in our country says something about our country. Our immigrant relatives and those of us who have been here for generations building this country, we will not just shape this election. I'm convinced we will win this election. So jayo, instead of buying your bubble tea this week, I'd really encourage everyone to invest that money in Kamala's campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much, State Rep Parajon. Now I would like to introduce Taiwanese American City Attorney of San Francisco, David Chu. He is the city's first Asian American city attorney, which is surprising given how Asian American it is. He previously served as a state assembly member and as a county supervisor. And he decided to go into public service after he ran out of degrees at Harvard to collect. And we're so much better for that. And when he becomes the next mayor of San Francisco or the next California Attorney General, you can say you knew him way back when. So please welcome San Francisco City Attorney David Chu.
Thank you, brother. Good evening, Taiwanese America. It is great to see so many old friends and incredible leaders on this call. And when Christina was talking, it made me hungry. So I'm going to say this. I'm hoping we get to celebrate together in Washington, D.C. next January, eating stinky tofu and sweet potato. Jay mentioned I am currently the city attorney of San Francisco. I proudly lead the office where our presidential candidate once worked. Like many of you, I am the son of immigrants from Taiwan. My parents grew up during the occupation days of World War II, and they came to our country to pursue opportunities and freedoms for their kids. And for me, part of the reason I'm here is 26 years ago, as a new prosecutor, I was told that if I wanted to learn my craft, I had to go to court to watch the closing argument of a brilliant prosecutor named Kamala. I saw firsthand her fight for justice, her toughness, her compassion, and we became friends. And 5 years later, she asked me to join the kitchen cabinet for her very first campaign for San Francisco District Attorney. And organizing that first Asians for Kamala group, I personally saw her uplift our community time after time. Seniors in the oldest Chinatown in America, Nisei and Sansei in Japantown, small business owners in Little Saigon, Korean ministers, Filipino artists, Indian tech entrepreneurs. And I can tell you, as she served as our DA, our Attorney General, our US Senator, we worked alongside her to tackle gun violence and domestic violence, to fight for reproductive rights and worker protections. And I can tell you, if others have said today, that Kamala sees our community and she fights for us because she is from our community. She actually understands our community. And the contrast with that orange guy could not be more stark. We know that Donald Trump is someone who's going to take us back in time, who has demonized us, those of us from immigrant backgrounds, who has destabilized the world order. And I think if there's anything that we can remind our family members of, is this is the former president who, when he referred to the Chinese virus and Kung flu, he and his MAGA allies unleashed the most virulent era of anti-Asian hate in modern history. And I can tell you that Kamala, for her entire life, but particularly as our vice president, she's been fighting for all of us and all of our freedoms here and abroad. Now, the last thing I want to just say is, for decades, our community has been asking, when is America going to elect top leadership that reflects us? We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to elect a president of Asian American descent. I don't know about you, but I do not want to wake up on December 6th wondering what I could have done for this moment, because we cannot go back. And this is why in recent weeks, I've joined others in helping to organize 25,000 folks to join our first Asian Men event for Kamala, why we're launching Taiwanese Americans for Kamala today, why we'll be launching Chinese Americans for Kamala shortly. And so, to echo Michelle Obama and Mama Bell, I got to ask all of you who are watching this to do something. Figure out right this moment, how are you going to get involved? What is the size of the check you're going to write? Are you going to join a phone bank? Are you going to come with some of us to go visit a battleground state to knock doors? We've got 68 days left. 68 days left. And as folks have said, you can sleep when you're dead. So with that, let's get it done together. Jayo, and back to Jay. Thanks.
Thank you so much, David. Now I would like to introduce Abigail Hing-Wen. She is a Taiwanese American and the author of the series Love Boat Taipei, which became a movie, and she just came out with a new book called Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies, and she has an amazing slew of projects in the pipeline, and this is actually her second career. She was a very successful attorney before, so I just like to welcome the one person who can make this distinguished group feel completely inadequate. Please welcome Abigail Hing-Wen.
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you all for having me. I am so honored to be here, and I was so thrilled to hear all the remarks that have come, and I'm looking forward to the ones that are coming. As Jay mentioned, I'm the author of the Love Boat Taipei trilogy, so I've now written 3 novels set in Taiwan, featuring Taiwanese and Taiwanese American characters who are front and center. They are allowed to be the main characters of their own story. I've been to Taipei so many times now, starting first with a trip with my family, and ending with actually filming the movie adaptation Love in Taipei, which is now out on Netflix. I love the opportunity to put Taipei on the map for people outside its borders and to showcase the beauty of the city to the whole world. So my first job after Harvard was as a volunteer on the Elizabeth Dole for President Exploratory Committee, and this is in Washington, D.C., and she was at the time perceived to be the first viable female candidate for president. And I remember people saying that we would first have a Republican woman president before a Democrat because she was safer. And she leaned into that. She even said, as part of a message of reassuring the public, she would be guided by her husband, Bob Dole. So fortunately, we are long past that. We don't need a safe woman president who knows her place. And what we do have is an incredibly qualified Asian American woman candidate. And I support her because of everything she and that identity brings to this role. She's in touch with our community and other underserved and underrepresented communities. And it makes a huge difference to have decision makers at the highest tables who come from diverse backgrounds, because as Some of my colleagues have said they had the eyes and the ears to see and hear. And one more insight. So Jay mentioned I used to practice law. I clerked on the DC circuit and worked in government and practiced in DC for 10 years. And I still keep close tabs with what's happening there. Harris respects rule of law, and Trump clearly does not. And I can give some ongoing insights from behind the scenes. The court has historically taken its precedents very seriously. If they choose to overrule themselves, that's done very rarely, with great deliberation and reasoning, and an opinion of the court that explains the rationale. But what the Supreme Court is doing now is not rule of law. They're not just simply overturning their own precedents. Like, I'm the first to agree that standing laws often do need to be challenged. We as a community know that laws can be unfair, but that's not what they're doing. They are claiming that we're in a post-constitutional world. They're not even researching the precedents. They're making laws based on what they think they should be doing, and the role of the court is not to make laws. It's sloppy at best, it's anarchy at worst. We need a president who's going to appoint competent people with integrity to the nation's highest offices, people like all of you on this Zoom call. The stakes are high, and it's up to us to get the word out. So thank you again for having me be a part of this panel. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Now I would like to introduce Andrew Chow. He's a member of the Diamond Bar City Council, and he previously served as mayor. As a child, he and his twin brother were so adorable. They were featured in commercials in Taiwan. I know this because he's also my cousin. Please welcome Councilmember Andrew Chow.
Thank you, Jay, for that kind introduction. Yeah, luckily we were on TV before YouTube days, so there's no evidence of any of that happening. So, so that's one of the perks of prior to social media came about. Again, thank you so much for the invitation, Jay and Wenchi, to speak to Taiwanese Americans. It's hard to follow such an inspiring group of speakers that came before me. And much like today's Zoom call, I was inspired to run for office in 2018, following Donald Trump's win in 2016. And I just thought that it could not possibly get any worse. And come COVID in 2020, now in our city's Diamond Bar, which is in the suburbs of Los Angeles, we're about 64% Asian, API. And you would imagine that in a city of such as ours, that racism and xenophobia doesn't really exist. But through Trump stoking this xenophobia, believe it or not, we had an anti-Asian hate rally where a gentleman actually drove through the rally while yelling racial slurs at the protesters. And that happened in my town in the middle of an anti-Asian hate rally. So the irony is not lost on any of us. And that really inspired me to continue to engage and continue to speak up. And that's why I ran again for office in 2022. Again, as Jay mentioned, I was actually born and raised in Taiwan and came to the US when I was 12. So I understand firsthand both the challenges and the opportunities that came along with being an immigrant. And this is why electing Vice President Harris is so important, because she understands and she's a symbol of what is possible. Electing her means continuing to push for progress and making sure that our democracy thrives and that every voice is heard. So I won't go on much longer. It's really hard to follow a group that came before me, but like some of the speaker had mentioned, our job is making sure that the progress continues and that we're not the only one or the first one to do something, but we hold a door open and make sure that there are more Taiwanese Americans come after us. And go out to vote this November. I can't stress how important that is to exercise our voice. Again, I'll see you all in November at the victory party. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Our next speaker is also a first-gen immigrant, Trustee Wong. She is a school board member from Livermore, California. Welcome, Trustee.
Thank you. Takeho, Japabe. It's such an honor to be part of this esteemed panel tonight. I know you're all wondering why a local school board member is here with these national and state leaders. Well, I've been serving on school board during 4 very challenging years when national politics was brought into our boardroom. We were one of the school boards in the crosshairs of Moms for Liberty. They actually had on their website a list of the school boards that they're targeting. So yes, we school board members have been on the front lines of the national culture wars, much of which was inflamed by Trump. But I'm also here tonight because I'm proudly Taiwanese American, and my first job out of grad school was working in Washington, D.C. to advocate for U.S.-Taiwan relations.
I have a deep understanding of the importance of leadership in the White House and its impact on Taiwan's safety and security, which is a big concern for all of us Taiwanese Americans, no matter how long we've been in this country. The Biden-Harris administration has stood up for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. And for the first time, the U.S.'s 6 assurances to Taiwan's security has been included in the Democratic Party platform. There's no mention of Taiwan in the Republican Party platform this year. We need predictability and stability in U.S.-Taiwan relations. And to get that, we need predictable, stable leadership. Vice President Kamala Harris is a serious candidate and a thoughtful person. As a woman of color in elected office, I can't say enough how much it means to me to see a Black and Asian woman at the top of our ticket. If you live in a blue state like I do, there's still a lot we can do for the Harris-Walz campaign. We can all donate money as we're doing tonight. We can write postcards, make phone calls, and send texts to voters in swing states to remind them to vote. I do this every election year and certainly doing it this year. In addition to serving on school board, I'm also running for city council. We all live in places where there are local races going on. I'm not just being self-serving when I urge you to support your local candidates, because turning out voters for those down ballot races will also help the ones at the top of the ticket. So as been said many times tonight, do something. And if you've done something, then do more. And I'm gonna repeat what Tim said in the chat earlier. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Christy. Our next speaker is Tiffany Chu. Tiffany is an entrepreneur turned public servant, a daughter of Taiwan. She and Michelle Wu, Boston mayor, are changing the face of Boston politics. We're very, very proud of you, sisterhood. Tiffany.
Thank you so much, Wenchi. Really appreciate you and Jay for hosting us tonight. So wonderful to see many familiar faces and friends. I'm Tiffany Chu. I am the Chief of Staff to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu here in Boston. I'm here on her behalf tonight and also a proud member of the Taiwanese American community. For those of you who aren't familiar, Mayor Michelle Wu represents so many firsts, like Kamala. She's the first ever elected woman, person of color, first ever mom, Asian American and Taiwanese mayor for the city of Boston. And shortly after she was elected, she had the courage to select a chief of staff, myself, who's also a proud daughter of Taiwanese American immigrants. And Michelle and I couldn't be more excited about Kamala and Tim. To us, Kamala represents so much of what's possible when you put Asian women from immigrant families in positions of power. And we've welcomed Kamala on the tarmac here in Boston so many times over the past 3.5 years. They've supported us in our climate resilience work, in our labor workforce work, in our youth and families work, doing the big things by getting the small things right. They care about the same values that we care about in the Taiwanese American community, from housing to public safety to creating a family-friendly environment for the next generation to grow up in. And exactly what Nadia said a few speakers ago, I think we've all been so incredibly inspired by the last couple of weeks of uplifting, empowering, and inclusiveness that we've seen the new administration really manifest. And I think it's really exciting, especially when we're stepping into a new world. Mayor Michelle Wu will also be the first ever mayor of a major U.S. city to give birth while in office to her third child come in January. And we are incredibly committed to creating a better world for the next generation. So wanted to say thank you to all the organizers. So wonderful to be in community here and get out the vote. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you, Tiffany. It's coming to the end. We have our very last speaker, Michelle Krusik. She's an actress, writer, and producer. She played Anna Mae Wong in the Hollywood TV miniseries and is working on a documentary on the Vice President Kamala Harris, hopefully president in November.
Hey everyone, so excited to be here. Like everyone has said, I'm very honored to be part of this community. I am Taiwanese American, and I am freshly back from the DNC, where I actually am excited to know that I saw many of you there. It was my first ever DNC. I was very privileged to be invited to support my friend Vanessa Hope, who is a filmmaker working on her next project. And she gave me, an amazing opportunity to witness something historic. It's emotional for me to even think about it. And I just want to shout out to her because we are in a Taiwanese community here. And if you don't know her last film, it's called Invisible Nation. And as a Taiwanese American, you should all be very proud to know that this film exists for us. It deconstructs our history and spotlights, much needed film about female leadership, about Tsai Ing-wen. And it frames for us, and it framed for me, what we can expect from Kamala Harris when she becomes our next female and our first female president. Also, I just want to say about crowd size that it was standing room only, and there was a very big crowd for Kamala. And there was just this kind of excitement that's there. And I'm trying to think, what can I share in this conversation that hasn't already been shared? And I think the truth is that it was a spectacular experience and show, and the presentation was incredible. But what I was really moved by was this sense of a shift in leadership, a dynamic move towards something that is hopeful, joyful, away from division, and towards representation, true representation, female leadership, and true empowerment. I was seeing leaders on that stage that do not look like leaders of the past. And I believe that, coming from Hollywood and having worked on many, many productions for almost 30 years now, women of color put other people of color, other minorities in positions of power. They do that because they understand how much work it takes to get to those opportunities. And those people that Kamala Harris will bring with her are dedicated, they are high achieving, and they are so prepared for this moment. And that's what I'm excited about. Kamala and the new administration and the fresh energy that she is going to bring to our country. This election for me is all about character, about values, and how we define with our vote what American means to us, not what someone else is going to define being American is to them, but how we define it. And, Kamala Harris shared that she worked at McDonald's. I am a daughter of an immigrant. My mother also worked at McDonald's. She came to America at a time where it was too late for her to get a formal education. And, she got tired of being offered jobs where she was paid under the table or treated like she was, an undocumented worker. My mother is an American citizen. And so she worked at McDonald's. And, when I think of my family, the middle-class values, the hardworking values, that is what Kamala represents to me. And I believe that is what she symbolizes to everyone. And that is who she is rooting for. She is rooting for the people. So we have 68 days. It's not a lot of time. And, I am somebody who, because I was raised as a Taiwanese, the daughter of a Taiwanese immigrant, I was kind of taught to keep my politics private. Because my mother always feared, big China stepping in, Japanese occupation when she was growing up, stepping in. So I was naturally raised to stay private with my politics. And after this DNC, I just realized that I have to stop being complacent. I have to be publicly activated, engaged, and I'm hoping that, my story will relate to some of you who can then turn other people who are complacent or not public about their politics and really try to engage them and rally them to vote. So let's get out there. I'm here for, Taiwanese Americans, for, every organization now. I'm just gonna put it out there. And the last thing I'll say is that I want global peace. That's what Vanessa's film is about. And I really believe that we need global peace, peace in the Middle East, peace with Ukraine. And I think that Kamala Harris is the president who won't just bring people together, but she will bring countries together. So let's go for Kamala Harris, and we are not going back.
We are not going back. Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you to all of our amazing speakers and the attendees. And thank you for understanding that we were operating on Taiwan time. You know, that's why we've gone a little bit over. You should have anticipated that this would happen. But I just want to, close out my portion by saying, you always hear that this is going to be the most important election of your lifetime, but there is the possibility that a career criminal, someone who abuses women, who feeds off of misogyny and off of racism, could be put back in the White House. But the perfect antidote to that is a career prosecutor, someone who puts away thugs and sex abusers, and someone who is also a woman of color, someone who is Asian American, the daughter of immigrants. She is the perfect antidote to the yellow menace, which we have already experienced once before. And we have to do everything we can to make sure that we elect Kamala Harris as our next president. So please donate, volunteer your time, put it all out there, and don't wake up after the election wondering what more you could have done. And I really feel good about this election. I want to tell you, if you have those relatives who might be a little bit superstitious, what you can also tell them is that, look, this is the year of the dragon. And we currently have on our ticket 2 candidates who are both year of the dragon. So basically, this is the double dragon year, Shuanglong. So they should feel good about voting for the Shuanglong ticket. So for those relatives, Agong Ama, maybe that'll get to them and get them to take off that red hat. So please take it away, Wenchi.
Thank you, Jay, for digging into that dragon thing. I just cannot believe the power of our community. 4 years ago, really was a tiny community. And today we're witnessing and immersed in joy. We don't, and we Taiwanese Americans or Asian Americans, we don't just do well academically. We're not just lawyers, doctors, accountants. We're also storytellers, community and political leaders, as seen by today's speakers. So before we end, I want to thank JC, Clifton, Amy, Barney, Rath, Carrie, of course, Jay, and so many more in our community for making this movement and today possible. This is like our mini convention. And before we close out, just to freedom, to America, to a Kamala Harris administration, let's get to work. I want all the panelists to turn on your screens. If we can just chant this Kamala Dong Suan together, as we explained. Unmute yourself. Repeat with me, Kamala Dong Suan.
Kamala.
Kamala. Okay, one more time. Kamala.
Kamala.
All right, let's chant Kamala Dong Suan on November 5th. Let's get out the vote. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.